Hey everybody, welcome back to Spirituality with Gabriella. If it is your first time on my channel, I do manifestation content and I also share channeled messages from spirit. One of the things I've talked about a lot on this channel is my twin flame journey, and I like to share about my experience in the hope that it will help others who are going through this journey. And so what I'm doing in this video is I have compiled a list of questions, some of the most common questions that I've gotten over the years about twin flames, about the separation phase, as well as the process of coming into union. And I'm going to address those questions today in the best way I know how. Just to give you a really quick backstory, my twin flame and I were separated for about 2.5 years. This is going back to 2022 all the way to 2024. We met in November 2021, and we are now in a healthy relationship, have been for about 2 years, and are engaged. So yay! Super happy about that. And I believe in being really authentic, honest, and vulnerable about really everything that I've gone through. I am an open book. I am going to tell you and teach you anything that I can. My belief is that if you are a true twin flame on planet Earth, you are a special soul. You came here with a specific mission and purpose. And I want to share my perspective and perhaps also debunk some of the myths that come up on this journey. So without further ado, let's get into it. Full disclosure, I have a list of questions over here, so if you see me looking down, this was compiled with ChatGPT, our friend. So let's just get into it. The first question is everyone meant to meet their twin flame in this lifetime? No, definitely not. I personally believe that twin flames are extraordinarily rare. The reason why they are so rare is it requires so much spiritual knowledge and healing in order to come into union. It requires a lifetime of dedication to whatever your personal mission is, and the willingness to actually heal all of the wounds as they come up. Because let me tell you, there is nothing as triggering and intense as the twin flame journey. It's impossible that all humans are twin flames. There are a lot of organizations out there that will tell you, oh yes, everyone's a twin flame, don't settle until you find your twin flame. In my opinion, this is really toxic because it sends pretty normal people out on this quest to find their twin flame. And the truth of twin flames is you don't need to find your twin flame. It's not something to search for. It is a very painful journey a lot of the times. And so if you are destined to go through a twin flame journey, it will be sent to you and delivered to you by God, Great Spirit alone. So don't fall for any of the propaganda, these classes that teach you to go out and find your twin flame and not to settle for a normal relationship. And I'm saying this as a twin flame, okay? I just personally think it's really disgusting that there are these companies making boatloads of money, like thousands and thousands of dollars, convincing people that they have a twin flame when probably they don't. And what I mean by that is you probably 9 chances out of 10, you probably did not reincarnate with your twin flame in this lifetime on Earth. What I will say is over the last 3 years, I have noticed more twin flames are coming to Earth. The reason for that is the vibration of Earth is lighter. And so that probability is shifting. It makes sense. The vibration of Earth is getting lighter. Our abilities are growing stronger. There are many more intuitive psychics. The children are much more gifted. And I still think that it is incredibly rare. If you feel that you're a twin flame, you'll usually know it, and there are a couple different things that give us indication that you're a twin flame. Number one, you have this incredible soul pull to this person, okay? And when you meet that person, yes, it's true, you do have some obsessive thoughts. It is really hard not to think about them. They're kind of in your consciousness. For me, Tom was just in my energy field, in my consciousness for 2 years. And every day I thought of him, whether we were talking or not. And there were many, many periods of time where for months we didn't talk at all. To have that experience and have somebody who's kind of like living with you energetically, that is a clear sign of a twin flame. And the tricky thing is it does come with some overlap with what we see in toxic relationships or even karmic relationships. And so there are a couple other things that I want to point out too. If you are a twin flame, you will most likely go through a Kundalini awakening. What this means is that your chakras are being activated, and you will quite literally feel that as a buzzing or a tingling in your chakras. I had a couple experiences, especially before Tom and I came into union, where it was literally so crazy. I can only describe it as, for example, my crown chakra one time, it felt like people were touching my head. For a whole week, it literally felt like somebody was like stroking my head or touching my head, and I was going crazy. I didn't know if it was a spiritual thing. I didn't know, honestly. All I knew is that I was going through something really bizarre and I didn't feel safe to share it with anybody. But I had that progressively through my different chakras, and this is what we call Kundalini awakening. Essentially, this is when more of our life force energy is coming into our chakra system, therefore activating us. And so if you meet your twin flame in this lifetime, it is very likely that you will have a Kundalini awakening. This has been consistent across all of the clients who I've worked with who are twin flames, as well as in my own experience. The third thing, if you are a true twin flame, is you will most likely feel like you have an important purpose on earth. You will feel like you're not just a normal or average person. So look at me, I was in the corporate world for 7 years. I did that, I was successful at it, but it didn't feel right in my soul. And so I left and I started my own business. And I had to deal with a lot of fear to do that, but I did it because I felt that I had a personal mission or purpose. And so if you're a twin flame, one of the reasons that you are united with your twin flame in this lifetime is really to live out that purpose and to live out that higher mission. And so usually if you are experiencing a block to your union, it's actually just time that God or Spirit is giving you to fulfill that mission. And just to make this really black and white, when Tom and I met, initially, I was still working in corporate, and over the course of that 2.5 years that we were separated, I left corporate and I started really serving my true mission on earth. And that was actually a huge part of what facilitated our union. And so you see, I had to do a lot of inner work in order to come into union. And so maybe if you're a twin flame and you're not in union yet, you can ask yourself, well, what is my mission and how can I step into it a little bit more fully? Okay, next question. Do twin flames always end up together romantically? No, they don't. Again, you can see I'm being super honest. I have seen so much BS on the internet and I'm just not here for it. I'm not. So I'm just going to tell you honestly the truth. No, they don't. Ending up in union together is rare. And the reason is because the journey is going to put you through a lot of healing and a lot of initiations. The process, in my experience, felt very long. It was 2.5 years for me. I know people where it's 7 years or 10 years before they come into union. I know people who have done the work for 7 years and they're still not in union. Just being honest. And I'm not saying this to paint a picture of negativity. I am just saying this to be very realistic. It is not everybody's journey in this lifetime to end up in union with their twin flame. Sometimes your twin flame comes into your life to activate you, to help you understand that you have more depth to your soul than maybe you were aware of previously, just to show you how expansive a connection can be. Sometimes they come into your life to push you into a trigger that you wouldn't have otherwise known. For me, for example, I had a lot of abandonment wounds. I didn't even know that I had them before I met Tom. I had always had relationships that were kind of push-pull, but never had I experienced such pain, right? And I had no choice but to go into those wounds. So honestly, from a soul perspective, if we just look at it from a 10-foot view, a lot of times our soul will choose to meet our twin flame simply because we learn a lot. They are our greatest teacher. Is everyone destined to end up with their twin flame romantically? No. There are also twin flames that become great friends, and maybe they don't hang out all the time, but they hang out from a distance, you know? There are a million different possibilities with twin flames. The classic archetype is that, yes, you know, twin flames can end up together romantically, and that's what has been true in my situation. And I think the reason why people are so attached to this is that, one, it's very romantic. You know, obviously it's beautiful if you can end up with your twin flame. It's a joyous thing, and there's a lot of light in that. So I think people really love it, and of course they want that for themselves. But secondly, there's a feminine and masculine energy at play. And so when we think union, uniting the feminine and masculine, romance is a natural way that that will come about. It is not the only way, but it is a sure channel, right, to bring you into more peace, more wholeness, and what feels like a romantic union. Often, one thing that is true of twin flames is they have a lot of physical attraction to one another, and this does not always have to result in romantic union. But it is usually the case that if you meet your twin flame, you will be very activated by them. This is partly energetic. It is also partly physical attraction, because it can span across different religions. It can span across different ages. You know, Tom and I are 15 years apart, but that truly doesn't matter to us. You know, we almost don't even notice it at all because our attraction and our love for each other is so very strong. So I think that's why people think, oh yeah, twin flames have to end up together romantically. But no, they don't. Sometimes your twin flame is just your greatest teacher, and that's it. What should I do during my separation with my twin flame? This is a great question. The first thing that I would advise people, since I have been through this and I know how intense it is, begin to think of your separation not as this horrible, like cruel thing that God has done to you. And honestly, it's hard not to think of it that way sometimes, depending on your journey. For me, it felt very intense. But now looking back, I actually think of it as God was giving me time to become my best self. Because in that 2.5 years, I became a really powerful channel. I really developed my mission. I started serving clients. I started making my own money. I left corporate. I let go of a lot of the wounds that were really painful for me, like father wounds, mother wounds, abandonment wounds, things that I had been holding on to, which I personally wasn't really aware of before I had met my twin flame. Think of it as a gift. It is a gift that you have this time to become your best self. Because the truth is, you would rather go through that time and become a really strong version of yourself and then come into union, as opposed to doing this horrible back and forth thing that can happen a lot in relationships. It can happen in any relationship, not just twin flame ones, where neither one of you are really whole, integrated human beings. And so I look back on the separation phase, and I think that God was testing me and teaching me to really love myself in a very radical way. And I want to be really clear about what I mean when I say self-love, because I think a lot of people talk about self-love online. And in my experience, self-love is not saying a bunch of affirmations. It's not like going on dates with myself, although I will say that was a helpful practice for me during that time. It's more radical self-acceptance. And I think that self-love as a term gets thrown around a lot, but for me, radical self-acceptance is what allowed me to be more whole as a soul and as a person. And so if we just peel back the layers, and I'm talking from personal experience, for example, I used to hold on to a lot of fear that people would judge me just because I was sharing my tarot readings or my spiritual knowledge. And I had to let go of all that fear, all that conditioning, the things that weren't serving me, and I had to stop judging myself. You know, a lot of times if you and your twin flame are separated, it's actually because there's an element of self-judgment that you may be holding on to, and it could be completely unconscious. But as you have that time to peel back the layers and get to know yourself and get really intimately acquainted with who you are and maybe some of the things that aren't serving you, you get to release it. And that is the beauty of the separation phase. So I think that, again, there's a lot of stuff I see online, and I just don't think it's explained in the best way, because yes, the separation phase is absolutely painful. It is, and it is hard, and you have to heal yourself through it. And sometimes it can feel very isolating too. You know, that's something I experienced as well. It felt isolating and hard. But I look back and it was a great gift from God. It was a chance for me to really rise, expand, spread my wings, become a bigger, better version of myself. And if you're in a separation phase with your twin flame and you feel that true, authentic connection, I know it's really hard because they're energetically a part of you, essentially. But do your best to really just focus on you. And one example I give people a lot is, if there's something that you feel like you've been resisting, it could be anything at all, probably that's the thing that you need to do in order to facilitate your union. And it could be anything. Like for me, I kept hearing in these meditative experiences for a long time, like, Gabriella, you have to paint, like you have to take care of your inner child, you have to have more joy in your life. Because I was super serious back in the day. And I kind of just ignored it for probably like 2 or 3 years. I didn't do any painting. I was really just hustling, like building the business, you know? And finally, when I started doing those things like painting and dancing and bringing more joy into my life, first, I experienced the present moment more, but second, I became more of myself. And that's what I think it comes down to. The separation phase is for you to come into your own type of union with yourself. And it's like all of these fragments of your soul that perhaps were dispersed across planes, they're returning back to you. So you're becoming more whole, more integrated, more secure. And one thing that I want to say is it's your own union. It's a wholeness. It's not about perfection. You don't need to be perfect to be with your twin flame. Trust me, I'm definitely not perfect. There are definitely things that I still need to work on. And there are things that Tom still needs to work on. And that's true of everybody on earth. There's always something that we can refine. So it's not about perfection. It's just about being whole in who you are and what you have to offer. Okay, next question. How do I let go without giving up? I think this is a really good question, because this is where it does get tricky. At least in my experience, it was very hard to find this balance. And I'll just be really honest for a moment. I actually did give up. I might have shared this in some of my other videos, but I waited for about, I want to say, probably like 15 or 16 months, I'm guessing. I might be a little off on the timing, for Tom to return to me. And we did text a little bit during that time, so I had some hope that maybe something would come, you know, something would come together, but it didn't. And so I did actually give up. And at that point, I left him a voice note and I told him I loved him. And I look back and I see, wow, that was me expressing something, which at the time felt really scary to express and felt really scary to share. But I'm glad I did it, because it kind of set a more solid foundation for the container of our relationship. And actually, looking back, it was really good that I told him that at the time, because even though he didn't reply instantly, at least he knew where I was coming from. You know, I think a lot of times we create more trauma for ourselves because we just don't communicate what is inside of us, and we expect the other person to pick up on it or intuitively know it. But that's not really how things work, you know? In the twin flame connection, you are really intuitive. You're almost psychically communicating all the time. So that is definitely true. But the connection will also push you to communicate verbally because it's not comfortable. And everything in the twin flame relationship and connection is not comfortable. It's all about expansion. So it was good that I did that. Anyhow, for me, that was a necessary part of the process to let go and just come back into myself and almost experience the world without my twin flame. And I got to see what the world was like without him, right? And that was very painful. I cannot even describe. I felt like I was dying, very honestly. But I did force myself quite literally to entertain like other relationships and seeing other people just because I thought, you know what, like I have to give up. There's no proof that this is going to work out. And during that period of time, I kept seeing a lot of signs and synchronicities for me and Tom, which I found incredibly annoying at the time. Um, and I also noticed that nobody felt like him. No matter which way I looked at it, like nobody was filling that same energetic space that he had filled. Sometimes you feel like you have to give up, and it's not really giving up. It's that classic phrase, if you love somebody, let them go. And if you're meant to be together, you know, they'll come back and they'll be yours forever. That's what I had to do. That's the best way I can describe it. And so I think I had to mentally tell myself, like, I am giving up, just so I could kind of let go of the hold that the twin flame stuff had over my life. And so that I could almost just return back to who is Gabby without all of that. But was I really giving up permanently? No, because when Tom came back, of course, I wanted to say yes. And of course I did say yes because it felt right. And I knew at that point it was happening for a reason. It's finding the ultimate level of trust, faith, and surrender, and it will test you. It will be to a level that perhaps you've never been to before with anything else, no other topic. There's nothing that is as intense as a twin flame journey. Ultimately, God or spirit, however you want to say it, they decide. Spirit decides. It's not really for us to decide. All we do is we hold our faith, we do the work, and we pray and we heal and we do our best. And if it's meant to be in this lifetime, your twin flame will come back. That's just the truth. And if it's not meant to be in this lifetime, then it's okay. It's okay to let it go. It's okay to have another relationship. I did. I let go of Tom. I had another relationship. It was a very healing relationship for me. I still thank that person from the core of my heart because that person helped me heal. Sometimes that's necessary, you know? And the other thing is that sometimes people come into our lives for a season and they have a purpose, but they're not necessarily meant to be there forever, and that's okay. It really comes down to the art of detachment, and you can hold a desire within. You can know that something deeply resonates with you, and you can release the timeline and the how. And it is a work of spiritual mastery in order to do that, but really it is letting go of control and understanding that the only one who controls anything is God, Great Spirit. The only one. We don't have control over anything at all. You know, I look back at my life at all the things I tried to control, especially when I was in my 20s. It was kind of just a waste of time. It was a bunch of conditioning. Did I learn skills and talents? Yes, but did I have to push myself that hard? Absolutely not. No. You know, I pushed myself so hard that I got actually pretty sick when I was working all the time. I was working like 14-hour days. This was before I started my business. And I look back and I just feel sorry for myself because none of that was necessary. And so if you're on this journey as a true twin flame, I think my biggest piece of advice is don't see it as a terrible thing. Don't see it as like some curse. I've heard people say that before. It's a gift because regardless of what happens, whether you end up with your twin flame or not, one thing is for sure, your soul is being expanded deeply. And it's being expanded by taking you to some of the hardest places that you wouldn't otherwise see. And it's also being expanded because you're letting go of the parts of yourself, like those old wounds that don't serve you. And so if you can just think of it that way, you can actually have immense gratitude for the journey and for everything that the journey is here to teach. And twin flames who have really mastered themselves will ultimately get to a point where they're not desperate for their other half. They're not craving them all the time. They are so in their personal sovereignty that they truly enjoy their alone time, they enjoy their creation process, and they enjoy their connection to God. And If you feel disconnected from source, Great Spirit, God, that's what you want to look at. Because when you're connected, your twin flame comes back. It's less about being connected so you can get some kind of psychic answers. That's not what it is. That's actually become very purported. God isn't here to tell us exactly what's going to happen. No, God is here to grow us. And so it's not about trying to figure out the timeline or trying to figure out what the answers are. It's about surrendering your life to a greater energy. And if you can do that, then God can move through you. And if you don't do that, ironically, you end up blocking yourself. So that's what I learned on the journey. I hope that this video was helpful. I was radically honest, so I hope that that touches those who it's meant to touch. If you feel in your soul like you are a true twin flame, you know that you've experienced these things, the signs, the synchronicities, then I say, keep going, if that's what feels right for you in your soul. But please, please, for anybody where you're not sure or somebody is convincing you that you have a twin flame or whatnot, do not fall prey to the brainwashing. Do not pay somebody to bring you into union with your twin flame. It does not work that way. You can pay someone as a guide to help you with your healing, but nobody decides who comes into union with their twin flame except for the divine. And that's just the truth. And truly, I'm not trying to be mean or anything when I say this, but nobody can actually help you with that other than teaching you exercises and things that you can do to heal yourself. But if anybody's promising you, like, do this and then you'll come into union, that is so not how it works, because this journey is so not conventional. It's the opposite of conventional. There is no blueprint. Everybody has their own journey. And so it's really just about coming into union with yourself and God. And once you've done that, that is when you unite with your twin flame. All right, I hope this video was helpful. If you liked it, please give me a big thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.